Welcome to the Lucidist podcast, where I explore everything because I almost feel like I'm about to cry and I haven't even started because I know that everything is connected to everything else. I remember many times in my journey, I would be going through something so extremely difficult and I wouldn't want to. And many things, different things would inspire me to continue. It's hard to even talk. And one of them was that if there was a way for me to help others who might have to go through what I was going through. I'm having a very physical reaction to this. So I just got home from working out, and I got a text right when I got home from someone saying they have a client that is going through a rape trial, and they wondered if I had any advice for them as far as getting on the witness stand and one, just getting on the witness stand, and then also in specifically, obviously, for the defense. I mean, it's hard enough to actually tell the story, to say what happened, to speak that out loud is incredibly difficult. But then to have someone be able to do their utmost best, paid a lot of money, oftentimes, to do their best to, so many words come to mind. Let's just say to prove you wrong. That is even more terrifying. So I sat there and I was like, it was kind of this moment where I thought, oh my God, like I said that and I meant it, but I also never really considered that it might happen. And so I sat there and I thought, what advice would I have? Like, how could I possibly convey that experience, the wisdom of that experience to another person? And then it's also that moment where you think nobody else should have to go through that. And, but I don't know who this person is. I won't ever know, but I'm also so proud that they chose to do this. I'm not saying everyone shouldn't be proud by whatever decision they make. So I'm not sure what I'm going to say yet. And so I actually decided to do this podcast to help me distill down what might be the most concise and helpful, bits and pieces. And what was interesting is as I was standing there reading the text, thinking about what would I say, a quote came to mind. And it's one I've shared. I don't know if I've shared it here, but I've shared with friends before. And I think it's one of the most powerful quotes. And I don't know that when I've shared it, I don't know that anyone I've shared it with really got it. And I really wish people could get it. It's by Ram Dass. And I heard him say it in a speech he gave, 80s or 90s, I think, 1980s or 1990s, I can't quite remember. And he said, what do you do? Oh, no, how do you bear the unbearable? How do you bear the unbearable? What he was talking about was one of some people he knew, was in reference to people he knew, their daughter had been kidnapped, raped, and murdered. And he said, in his thing, he was like, what am I supposed to say to people who are being asked to bear the unbearable? That is unbearable. But that quote came to mind. My own life, bearing one of the unbearable things in my life was not just bearing the rape, but then also going through the trial process. And there were times where it was like, I cannot bear this. It is unbearable to me. And he said, Ram Dass said, how do you bear the unbearable? And he said, the part of you that cannot bear it needs to die. And here we are at death. I mean, death has been I feel like the last few weeks of my life have been all about the death process again, constantly letting those parts of yourself die that need to die so that you can continue to live. So, Ram Dass, how do you bear the unbearable? Well, the parts of you that cannot bear it need to die. So, as I thought of that, I thought, okay, well, what parts of me died in the rape, during that rape trial, so that I could continue to bear it and continue to do what I needed to do, specifically getting on the witness stand. Some of the biggest ones were societal, huge ones. The societal piece, which was, it was my fault. I did something wrong. I am bad. I shouldn't be attractive, sexy female, like just right there, right off the bat. Um, um, it's definitely something I said, something I did, somehow I dressed, somewhere I put myself. It was my fault. It was my fault that it happened, and basically, the defense was going to figure out how it was my fault. So those societal lies, those societal lies, the parts of me that believed those had to die, had to die. Um, and it's interesting because even as I say it, they are dead, and yet there are still, so they're such powerful stories that I can tell that it's almost like a teeny little flame, a teeny little spark could light them back up, and I would believe it again. Those parts of me believed it was the way I dressed, it was what I said, it was where I was, it was what I did, it was my fault. It was my fault. That was probably the first part of me that had to die. And I'm telling you what, it was the last part to die. Like, it was so, that one is so ingrained. And the next one is that somehow it is just sinful in and of itself to be a woman, to be attractive, to be sexy, to want, or even not even to be those, or even to want to be those, to express those. I mean, just like you had it coming, you asked for it. So those were definitely some of the parts of me that believed those had to die. Uh, the part of me that believed, well, then it was like, in the meantime, I had to bring things to life. Ram Dass didn't talk about this, but I think he probably meant it, was that when those parts of you die, other parts of you come to life. The things that came to life were, I didn't deserve this. Um, I deserve to speak what happened. Um, I have the right to be safe and respected in this body, on this planet, at this time. And so there were definitely those big things that needed to die, other things that I needed to cultivate and grow and bring to life. A big one was my voice. And I knew that it was so the thought of my voice speaking the story was, there was so much pain, there was so much grief, I was terrified. I was terrified to literally use my voice to say the words, and to hear my voice, and for my voice to be heard. That was terrifying. So I guess that was another part of me that had to die. The part of me that didn't dare speak had to die. And that was huge, because I had been silent for many years about many things. I've been silent about many things in my life. Um, so the part of me that was terrified to speak the words out loud, the part of me that was terrified to not be believed. The other thing I had to let die was the part of me that wanted to win. I knew that if I went into this and I had to win, that I would fail. Meaning, you can't guarantee win or lose, but to go into it. So I needed that part of me that wanted to win. I needed that one to die. In place of it, I found one that was like, I need to be heard. I need this. I need to not even be heard. I need to speak this story out loud. I need to speak the truth out loud. Like, because that I did have control over, right? I got to get on the stand and I got to speak with my voice the story of what happened out loud. So I did the part of me that wanted to win, the part of me that wanted like sort of justice, because you don't get to choose that, right? You literally are handing justice into strangers' hands. Like, 8 to 12 strangers are going to make up their own minds, and so you don't have any control over that. So I had to let the win and lose go. That was another really hard part. And in place of that, grow something that I did have control over, which was literally just speaking the story out loud and believing in the truth of my experience and my words. The other thing, so I feel like there's a couple of things there that I can distill down for this person. And then the third one has to do with sort of being attacked. And fortunately at the pretrial, the defense like practiced some of their tactics on me, but they didn't really get too deep. And since it never fully went to trial, I didn't have to go through that. And I'm honestly very grateful. As I said, the attorney that was assigned, the attorney that the man that raped me hired is known to be one of the most vicious. So I was very grateful that I didn't have to go through that. But even in the pretrial, having the defense try to make it seem like it was my fault. It was just, it's similar to what I first started with, the parts of me that believed societal, but this feels personal. This part was more about, no, somehow when he was coming at me, that I knew in my heart, I knew what happened and I knew what was true. And I was not going to allow him to skew or pervert the story in some way. And that was where I know meditation really helped, because I would just breathe and just be like, don't play the game. Like he's twisting that, and I just say no. This. Or I remember there were a couple of times he said something, it wasn't a question. He was basically insinuating, and so I didn't respond because it wasn't a question. It was like if I didn't respond to some comment he made, it was like I didn't exist. That wasn't a question. That isn't what this is. We're here to determine the facts, and your insinuations are not fact, and I'm not going to respond to them. So the last piece was like my personal responsibility to stay true to my story, true to myself, and not get caught up in his games. And that, interestingly enough, that part felt the easiest for me. Which I don't know why. And I never really thought about it, but that was the easiest. I would say the societal piece was insanely difficult to shed those beliefs. But I didn't have a doubt in me about myself and my experience, and I wasn't going to let this person manipulate or pervert the facts. And I was just careful. I was slow and careful about what I was going to answer and how I was going to answer. And there were times where I would stop. He would ask a question, and I would realize this is kind of a weird double-edged question. And I don't remember quite what the question was, but I remember at some point he asked a question, and I said, I don't feel like that's a fair question. And and I was like saying, like, that's not like you're kind of just voicing it to the whole courtroom, like that's not really a fair question, and letting everyone know, like, I recognize that he's trying to ask a question to like trap. And the judge said, okay, but I'd still like to hear your answer. And then I waited, and I think that's when it was interesting to me. So I paused. I thought, okay, I need to answer this question. How? So I just sat there for a minute. I was like, what? So I checked in, like, well, how do I want to answer this question? And I found an answer that was really powerful. And I realized I could take this double-edged sword and actually bring it back to the truth. And right as I was about to speak, I think the defense attorney must have realized, oh shit, she's thinking and she's come up with something. Because I opened my mouth to speak and he said, I withdraw the question. And I was like, it's a smart man. It's a good thing he withdrew the question because I thought I brought it back to the truth, back to the answer. So that part was easier for me, but the societal thing, which is why this is an interesting reflection for me, is because I've spent too much of my life not. I doubt myself enough, right? It's not that I don't have my own self doubts, but I actually worry so much about what everyone else is thinking. One, what everyone else is thinking, period, and then what everyone else is thinking about me, period. And those two, first of all, I got no control over them. So it's interesting that I would spend so much time, but wasted time, honestly. Um, and two, that those were the hardest beliefs for me to let die. Those were the hardest parts of me. To be willing to get up and know that all these people in the courtroom, the judge, the attorneys, the jurors, the public, whatever, even the rapist, to sit in front of him was terrifying. Um, they're all going to have their own idea about me. And knowing full well that some of them might not believe me. That was hard for me to understand. I was like, how can they not believe me? And I was like, some of them really might not believe me, and be okay that everyone was going to have their own idea about me. And I could control some. I mean, I could act like a raging lunatic, which I didn't want to do anyway, but I could control some by my ability to stop and think, say what I really wanted to say, not get pulled into the games, and make sure that my sort of like my plumb line, my through line, the golden thread, that I was staying true to that, which is and was always just tell the truth. Just tell the truth of what happened. Just keep going back. If he gets off onto something, just go back. This is what happened that night in this way at that time. This is what happened that night in this way at that time. Um, so, just being clear, I am here to talk about what happened on this night this is what happened that night in this time. That's another big thing, is that I am not on trial. I felt like I was on trial. And I had to keep telling myself, I am not on trial. I am here to say what happened on this night. And then they're going to find that man guilty or not guilty. So I had to keep reminding myself, because I felt like I was guilty or not guilty as well. That somehow I would, and it's very perverse what happens, what society has told us about rape as women. And I can't speak for men, but certainly as women, that it's so much our fault that I felt like I was on trial, that my character was on trial, that who I was that I was on trial. And I had to go, no, I am just here to tell the facts about one night, and then that man is going to be found guilty or not guilty. I am not guilty. I am not, I am not on trial. I am just here to speak the truth of what happened. So this sounds pretty easy, but there's so much emotion. There's so much emotion. There's so much energy. There's so much fear. Um, yeah, it's so not easy. But I do believe that every time a woman speaks it aloud, it must change the fabric of the universe. It must, because the universe is energy. Our voices are energy. and we change the energy, one voice at a time. It matters. It matters. And the fact that somehow I hope now that I've said all this, I hope that I can come up with some really helpful words, and maybe I'll share them on another podcast. And the reason I'm not sharing them now is because I was like, well, I'm asking myself, and I hear the word, well, why didn't you just wait and share them then? And then it would have been a nice, really nice podcast. Because I remain true to the first directive I was given, which is share your journey. And my journey is not sterilized. It's my journey this is my journey. These moments right now, this is my journey. This is the depth and breadth, the weight, the beauty of my journey are these moments where something comes into my life and I say, how can I hold this or not hold it? This is my journey. So I'm sharing my journey in real time. And yes, I will share the more concise, consolidated ideas that I come up with. But these moments where I stop and I receive what has come to me from the universe, and I say, okay, I remember making a commitment to myself, but it was really a hope. Can I help someone else? Is there a way that my experience could ease the pain or the pressure or the aloneness, that it's not the aloneness, the isolation that we often feel in those hard times, like we're the only one. And that isolation is so, especially when you're going through something that so few people have gone through, the isolation is like extreme because you're like, I can't, nobody really understands this space I'm in, like so few people. And then on top of that, it's so different for all of us, right? So it's just an isolating experience no matter what. So many experiences in life are very isolating. One, because so few people have been through it, and two, nobody else is you. So isolation is part of life's journey. But my biggest thought right now is just where I ended. I think it's so powerful in life to have a plumb line. And your plumb line, or my plumb lines, don't go very far because my life is always changing so much. But it doesn't mean I don't, do you guys know what a plumb line is? Look it up. It's really cool. It's like you drop a plumb line. It's a straight, it shows you the exact straight line, it shows you a straight line. And so I had a plumb line through the rape trial. It took me a while to find it, but once I found it, I just kept going back to it. I just kept going back to my plumb line. This is what I can control. This is my truth. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And all the chaos that would happen all around it. Yes, it would blow me off course. And then I'd be like, okay, where's my plumb line? Come back. And even now in my life, I would say I don't have a clear plumb line. I'm still sort of trying to draw threads together. I'm more like if you've ever combed or carded wool or linen and then spun it, I would say I'm still in the carding phase. I'm still like combing it, trying to get everything untangled so that I can spin a nice thin thread, and then that will be my plumb line and will help guide me. But I think having a plumb line in life is very, very helpful. Because the other thing I'm starting to see is it's really easy to become complacent. It's so easy to become complacent and sort of not do anything. You're busy. You can be very busy, but it's not the same as like conscious, visceral, lived, aware, present experience. that allows for change. So a plumb line. And that's probably going to be where I'll start is encouraging her and anyone else out there, whether you're going through a rape trial or not, is to gather the threads of your life together, spin it into a nice straight plumb line, and begin to follow it. Obviously, life is going to knock you off, and then you lose it, and you realize, okay, well that worked for a while. Okay, well now let's look at what's happening in my life now. Let's comb and card the threads again, and spin a nice line, and this is our plumb line for now. I wish I could remember the quote about complacency. Something about like complacency is as much as you're pretty much like giving your vote for whatever's happening right now. Like if you're not doing anything, then you're basically saying, yeah, whatever's happening right now is just fine. I can't remember. Somebody has a much better quote than that. I think that's it. And I also think I hope that we all begin to understand the richness of our journeys, and that the richness doesn't lie in the outcome. The richness isn't in the bulleted list of advice. It's these moments where we sit and consider all that's going on and all the ways that life happens and all the ways that we are connected. Lucidess, to be clear, to be bright. Lucidess, because I believe in the ability to shine the light in dark places and help us see what we haven't seen or haven't been wanting to see. We talk about what we haven't been talking about, what needs to be talked about. Lucidess, to be clear, bright, lucid about all things, because everything's connected. Everything's connected. I think if we could see all the infinite strings vibrating, and now it's just like this unending wave of energy, we'd realize, holy shit, everything is in this together. Maybe one day I'll share my ideas on consciousness, but not yet. The book is coming along. I am struggling through a chapter on Destiny because she's so damn powerful and amazing. And also because she lives in a different dimension than we do, and so I've had to spend all this time really considering the cosmology and the way it's all set up and da da da. Because of course Destiny can see our whole life, so she doesn't, she's in a dimension where she sees us. She can see the eternity of our time and go, okay, well this life is going to do this, right? So writing a very powerful chapter with Destiny. I'm super excited about it. I'm also having to draw on all my Irish ancestry, like all these old storytellers, and be like, come on, help me. Help me write this amazing chapter about Destiny. So I'm clawing my way, clawing back at my Irish ancestors. All these storytellers, come, help me, help me, help me. as well as my very scientific ancestors. Come, help me create a cosmology that makes sense. I am not willing to create some like yeah cosmology. I want this is my cosmology is grounded as deeply into our universe as I can get it. Sometimes my son's like, no, it's okay. It's like it's sci-fi or it's man, and I'm like, no, like something in me is like, no, I know that I can ground this thing so like almost magically into our reality where people are like, damn, like that's real. Like they're not even going to know it's real. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, like what she's talking about isn't sci-fi. It sounds sci-fi, but it's real. Or it's as real as we understand, or it's like, we think it might be true, but can't prove it yet. So I'm playing in those spaces where this is not a fantastical world. It is so deeply and so close to what we know or we really think. Anyway, which makes it tricky. Which requires a lot of me. So my plumb line right now is, well, it's it's a bit rough. We'll just leave it at that. Okay, that's it. So I hope to get that chapter out. It's going to be long too. Destiny has a lot to say. The other great thing about this book is the characters. Oh, I do have a couple I need to get out. They're done. I just haven't recorded them. I'll get those two out. Two short ones. I'll get those out. Some characters don't have much to say. They're just like, this is all I need to say right now. And I am letting the book and the characters write itself, so to speak. And I got to Destiny and she was like, I got a lot to say. I was like, shit, okay. I got a lot to say and you got a lot to figure out before I'm going to say it. I'm like, okay. So that's where I am with the book. So I'll get the two short ones that are done. I'll get those out this week. And then Destiny's, I bet she's at least 2 or 3 more weeks before I can get that chapter out. But it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So, in the meantime, card and comb the threads of your life together and then spin a beautiful thread. Call it your plumb line and stay true to it. See how long you can stay true to it. And I don't believe in forever, right? But if you find a clear plumb line, it will last. It will take you through a lot. And some plumb lines can take you through your whole life. But even, I don't know, maybe it depends on your life, I think. But in hard situations, having that clear plumb line where you know what you do have control over and what you can do, and staying true to that and giving the rest up, just like, I gotta just let it go. You have to, because it is unbearable. You can't carry it. That was another big thing, was letting go of control. Oh, this is important. Letting go of control while knowing I'm not helpless. Because for me, there were so many times where I wasn't in control and I felt helpless. And I slowly had to realize I am not in control and I am not helpless. Meaning I'm not in control of what's happening does not mean I'm helpless. It means I don't have control. And I'm still here in this sovereign body, this sovereign voice, this sovereign mind. And I'm in charge right here, somewhat. I use those words loosely. So I'm not in control and I'm not helpless. That was another big lesson for me. And I think that's helpful for all of us, because I think that's true for everyone, no matter what's going on in your life. You are not in control. If you think you're in control, you're not. And you're not helpless, right? You are not in control and you are not helpless. And that's a big and. And that is not usually what we're taught, is that if we're not in control, then we're helpless. And that was definitely a familial pattern. There were a lot of control issues in my family, with from each of my parents, the control they wanted to have over us, with their relationship, each one of them trying to control the other. Like, control was a big, big, big thing in my family. So I got to look at, and in some ways with my kids. times when I wanted or tried to sometimes unconsciously control it, sometimes consciously, out of fear, um, grief, any number of reasons. Anyway. Okay. Good morning and have a beautiful day.